My life was ordinary to the point of boredom. My name is Adam, 23 years old, and I work as a programmer in a small company. My days are indistinguishable from one another, divided between the computer screen at work and my modest apartment, which I share with my cat Misa. I never sought adventure or excitement. All I wanted was a quiet life, far from the world's complications. But fate, it seems, had other plans, something that would shatter my simple world to pieces and drag me into an abyss I never knew existed. It was a rainy Friday night. I left work late, as usual. The rain poured heavily and the wind howled, making it hard to see the road. I was driving my old car toward home, tired and longing for my warm bed. Suddenly, while taking a shortcut a coworker had recommended, one of my tires burst. I lost control of the steering wheel for a few terrifying seconds before managing to pull over. Looking around, I realized I was in a desolate area I didn't recognize. No houses, no lights, only darkness and a dense forest on both sides of the road. I tried my phone, but there was no signal. The rain showed no signs of stopping. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to leave the car and look for shelter, or at least a place where I might get some signal. I trudged along the muddy road, the cold seeping into my bones. After several minutes of exhausting walking, I noticed a faint light shimmering between the trees. I approached cautiously and discovered it came from an old building that looked like an abandoned mansion, but the light was coming from the basement. I pushed the heavy wooden door open. It creaked loudly. Inside was a large, dark hall filled with the smell of mold and dampness. I heard faint whispers coming from below and followed them, hoping to find someone who could help. I descended a crumbling stone staircase into a deep cellar, and what I saw there froze my blood. The room was vast, lit by torches fixed along the stone walls. In the center stood a black stone altar, stained with what looked like dried blood. Around it stood at least 30 people wearing black robes and hoods that hid their faces. They were chanting in a language I didn't recognize, its rhythm filled with dread. On the altar lay a human body, alive but bound. I screamed in horror, and instantly every head turned toward me. I tried to run, but hands grabbed me from every direction. I fought back with all my strength, but they were too many, too strong. They threw me to the ground and tied my hands and feet with coarse ropes. One of them, clearly the leader, approached me. He was tall and gaunt, his eyes gleaming with sinister light. In a harsh, gravelly voice, he said, "A new guest. What an honor to offer yourself to us on this night of celebration." I tried to scream, but someone stuffed a filthy rag into my mouth. They lifted me up and carried me to a small side chamber like a dungeon and threw me onto the cold floor before locking the heavy iron door. The darkness was complete, the dampness seeped into my clothes. I struggled to free myself, but the bindings were tight. Then I heard footsteps approaching. The door opened and a large, blindfolded man entered. He forced me to drink a thick, foul-smelling liquid. Dizziness overcame me and I lost consciousness. When I awoke, I found myself chained to the wall with a metal rope. There was another young man in the room, about my age, pale and trembling. He whispered, "My name's Karim. They caught me a week ago. You're here to be part of the ritual." I asked him what this place was, and he answered in a trembling voice, "Devil worshippers, cannibals. They worship dark forces and offer human sacrifices. Those killed here are given as offerings, then eaten in a demonic feast." My blood ran cold. I told him we had to find a way to escape. He said he'd tried before, but those who tried to run were killed in horrific ways. We heard the door open and fell silent. 2 men entered and dragged Karim out violently. He screamed for mercy, but his cries faded as the door closed. I was left alone, terrified of what awaited me. Hours passed, or maybe more. I'd lost all sense of time in the darkness. Then the door opened again. This time a young woman entered, also dressed in black robes but without a hood. She was pale and looked frightened. She closed the door behind her and approached me quietly. She whispered, "My name is Lila. I'm a prisoner here too, but they forced me to join them. I can help you." I doubted her at first, but desperation made me listen. She said she'd free me, but she had to be careful. The place was heavily watched. I asked her why she was helping me. She replied softly, "Because I can't stand seeing more innocent people die. I had a brother. He was here once." She carefully untied me and handed me a small knife hidden in her robes. She told me I had to escape now. while they were busy preparing for the main ritual. She showed me a secret passage behind one of the lockers that led outside the mansion. I thanked her and asked why she wouldn't come with me. She said sadly, "I can't. They know me. They'll kill my family if I run. But you must go now, or you'll end up like your friend Karim." I took the knife and followed her instructions. I crawled through the narrow, dusty tunnel. It was clear no one had used it in years. Cobwebs brushed against my face, and the air was thick with dust. After what felt like hours, I reached the end, blocked by a wooden panel. I pushed it hard until it gave way, opening to the outside. I found myself behind the building, deep in the forest. The rain was still falling, but the fresh air felt like freedom itself. My joy was short-lived, though. Soon I heard dogs barking and people shouting they'd discovered my escape. I started running through the forest, branches scratching my face and tearing my clothes. Fear fueled my legs, but the sounds behind me grew closer. The barking, the shouting, the pounding footsteps. I ran until I tripped over a tree root and fell. Before I could get up, they were upon me. Several men grabbed me, furious. This time, there was no mercy. They beat me brutally until I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was naked and tied to the black altar in the main hall. Around me stood all the cult members in their black robes, chanting their dreadful hymns. The leader stood at my head, holding a long dagger carved with demonic symbols. He shouted, "Now the time has come to honor our master. The blood of this intruder will open the gates of power." I felt the cold blade on my neck and closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable. But suddenly a deafening explosion shook the hall, followed by screams and chaos. I opened my eyes to see smoke filling the room as the cultists ran in panic. Then came the sound of sirens and voices yelling, "Police! Hands in the air!" Officers stormed the room from every direction, armed and wearing vests. The leader tried to flee, but one officer shot him in the leg and tackled him. Others freed me and wrapped me in a blanket. I was in shock, unable to believe I'd survived. At the hospital, the officers told me they'd received an anonymous call from a woman claiming to be held captive in that place. She'd given them detailed information about the rituals and victims. I knew then. It was Layla who had saved me, even at the cost of her life. Unfortunately, when the police raided the mansion, they didn't find her. Maybe she escaped, or maybe I didn't want to think about the other possibility. I returned to my old life, but I was never the same. I suffered from nightmares, feared the dark, and avoided remote places. Even my cat, Misa, sensed the change. She no longer came near me. I tried to resume my routine, but the ghost of that night haunted me still. I began seeing the faces of the cultists in crowds, hearing their whispers in the dead of night. Maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe they were still watching me. And one night, as I was sipping tea in my kitchen, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, no one there. But when I looked down, I saw a brown envelope on the doorstep. I picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was a black sheet of paper, marked with a blood-red demonic symbol. Below it were the words, "We know you're alive. The ritual is not yet complete." The paper fell from my hand as I realized my nightmare wasn't over. It was only the beginning.